A theme that you'll hear again and again on this episode is that it doesn't really matter what degree you got or what jobs you've had. I mean, yes, they've built you up, they've given you skills, knowledge, training, etc. But surely we're more limited by ourselves most of the time than external realities. Of course, there are always going to be constraints on the types of jobs available and what's out there, but I think what you'll hear in this episode with this amazing interview with my friend Zitely is that if you know what you're looking for, eventually it's going to come. And it may not feel like that, and it may not feel like that for a very long time. But I do truly believe that the more you can sculpt your identity and you can say to yourself, yes, this is who I am, and this is what I want, and this is what I stand for, then the things that you need in your life to really make you the best scientist and engineer you could possibly be, they're out there and they're going to come for you. So, Zitely, I'm so excited for you to listen to her speak. She's so fun, so kind. We went to grad school around the same time in the same degree program. Once again, another story of two people with the same degrees, atmospheric science, PhDs in this case, and completely different career paths. And funnily enough, I was checking out her Google Scholar page to remind myself of what she'd done in grad school, because, grad school's been a little while for me. And we both started kind of in more the aerosol world. So this is particles in the atmosphere that are anywhere between liquid to solid, semi-solid, right? If you happen to live somewhere where there's wildfire smoke or a lot of urban haze, a lot of that is composed of aerosols. So she did aerosol work, and she's always done a little bit in the methane world. And now she and I have re-overlapped, where I did aerosol work for my PhD, nothing to do with methane, nothing to do with oil and gas. And now we're both kind of working in that general space. She's currently a research manager at Clean Air Task Force, and she actually went into the policy side of things, which is so cool and definitely something you can do if you're interested. So this episode has a lot. Another huge thing about Zitely that's so impressive is that she was an international student and is still an international researcher. She's from Mexico and she hasn't lived in Mexico for a very long time because she's been moving around, doing amazing things throughout the world, as you'll hear. So Zitely is an awesome interview. I can't wait for you to be, inspired by her just joy and enthusiasm, her very cool story. Let's dive in. We got cool jobs. We do cool things. Our work should be magical. Welcome to STEMdenity. I'm your host, Anna Hodgshire. We work really hard and our jobs shouldn't suck. Let's dive in. Amazing. All right. Zitely, thank you so much. Dr. Zitely Tzompa. Dang it, we practiced this before I hit record and I had it once, but can you introduce yourself and your name so that the whole world knows how to say it right?
Of course. So my name is Zitely Tzompa Sosa. Um, don't worry if you get it wrong. It's even hard. It's hard even for Mexicans. I am Mexican. So don't worry about it.
Well, thank you. I don't know. I have this thing with words. People who listen to the podcast know that I often stumble over some just common English words. So, it's a thing and it's fine. So I met you in grad school and I went to grad school about 2014-ish to 2019-ish. And I think we overlap pretty closely. I think you started a little before me and you ended a little bit before me. Something that I have realized through doing this podcast is that, you can know someone through either you're friends with them, you work with them, or both, whatever it might be. But then you kind of realize, hey, I never really talked to this person about their backstory and how they got there. So I started looking at your LinkedIn profile and I was like, oh my God, Zitely has done all of these things. Like you started in air quality research on your LinkedIn in 2002, which probably means you were even doing stuff before that. Like, how did you get into air quality in the first place?
It was the fault of one of my professors that I loved her work, and she was giving us a class on toxicology. And but it was I don't know how to say it, but it's like airborne toxicology kind of thing. And and her field was air chemistry.
What was the
So
class?
it was, sorry, what was what?
Oh, you said that a professor of yours got into it? Or was it a specific class, or did you just start learning about it from her?
No, 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 no. It was a specific class that we had an option. I think it was an optional class. I can't remember if it was obligatory or not for. So my I studied environmental engineering in Mexico City, and you have like a wide range of classes that you can take. So some of them are obligatory for everyone. I I kind of remember probably toxicology was an obligatory one. But I might be just remembering it correctly. But the thing is, this lady really made a great class where she was trying and she was in the middle of the herself in the middle of the improving air quality in Mexico in the 90s. So she was a big part of it and she worked with a lot of research that was going on at the time. Some of you might know Mexico City's um, air pollution has decreased in a similar way as Los Angeles in California. And part of that was due to all this research that was available, and then that was also it kind of filtered into policy, and stakeholders in Mexico were like really interested in improving the air quality. In the 90s, Mexico was actually n named the most polluted city in the world. And that was a huge thing. And we've gone a long way from there. I don't think we're even named in the 25 top at this point, like right now, which is great. But that means that there was a lot of work done, and she was part of that work from from an academic perspective, and with hand in hand with policymakers. So she was this type of professor that was not only talking to you about the problem, but like literally like this is what we did and we brought these people and we did this and I proposed this thing and we were discussing blah 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 and I was fighting with these people. So it was such an engaging class that I was like, wow, I really want to be like her and I want to learn more about what she has been doing. And so I got really engaged, and that's after her class, I was like, I want to focus on air quality. And just to give you a sense, about only 1% of the environmental engineers in Mexico at the time focused on air quality. And it was the only way that you can kind of go towards like looking at air quality problems if you would have to have an environmental engineering degree at the time.
Yeah, that's so cool. Did you grow up in Mexico City? Do you have memories of it being really polluted or?
Yes. Yeah. No, it was so it was chilling. It is chilling to remember sometimes because honestly, I knew the sky was blue because my parents were from a different state in called Tlaxcala, which is just a few hours away drive from Mexico City, and we would go visit my grandparents. My grandmothers, both of them, lived there at the time, and we would do that every weekend. But I don't remember, literally, I don't remember, or maybe one or two times seeing in the 90s a blue sky in Mexico City. Afterwards, it is more common now, but at the time it was just gray skies all the time. And in my in my primary school, we would have air purifiers in each classroom. and we would just play with the filters, and it was disgusting. It was horrible. Yes, it was awful.
Yeah, that's so interesting because I got into atmospheric chemistry and air pollution because I grew up in the Salt Lake Valley where during the winter we get temperature inversions, especially when there's snow on the ground. And so the cold air is trapped and right, hot air rises, cold air stays. So all the pollution that's being emitted by everything that's going on is just trapped in that layer. So during the winter it was common to get these periods where it was just gray, right? And but I don't really remember that as a child, and maybe I just wasn't paying that much attention because it wasn't that often. But I started to pay attention when I was in college and starting to look around the world, and think like, oh, what am I breathing? Why do I feel like crap when I walk to school in this 1 mile when it's gray out and everything? Um, so that's really cool that you kind of also had a similar path. I also love that you mentioned the teacher that told all these stories. So they weren't just sort of like, okay, there was air pollution in Mexico City and now it's better. They gave you that, they put you in the science, they put you in what it looks like. And I think that's really important. That communication, that storytelling piece really helps people to start to connect. I don't know if you got to ever take classes from Ravi. I think you
Yeah.
interacted with Ravi. So I'm saying Ravi, and it's because I don't remember his full name. Maybe you remember it. If not,
Ravin Shakara or
but he has,
Ravin.
first name and last name. He just goes
Yeah.
by Ravi. So I'll look at
Yeah.
and I'll put it in both the show notes and at the ending. But Ravi is this incredible atmospheric chemist in our field who worked at NOAA, right, for a very long time, and then ended his career partly at Colorado State University, where we went to school. And he was just casually one day in some like, science ethics class that he decided to teach for funsies, just like, oh yeah, I was part of the team that solved the ozone hole. And I was like, wait, what? Because that's, probably the biggest environmental win that most people know about is the ozone hole. So it was just I was obviously already in the field at the time, but it really kind of helped me with that, like, oh yeah, this is why you do it, is because sometimes
Yeah.
you change the world, literally. So that,
Yeah. I'm glad you mentioned that because I think when I decided I really wanted to focus my career on not on air pollution, I already knew that, but like atmospheric processes and air chemistry more was when I was working at Centro Mario Molina, which is well Mario Molina Center in Mexico, and he with other two folks discovered the processes that rule all the destroying of the ozone layer. So the same thing that Ravi was also involved in, and I was very grateful to be able to work in his institution and being able to learn from him and from the folks there because that's where I really understood how can you do science and how can you build that bridge between the science and the academics and policy making. So after that, I was like, after working with him and with all the projects that we had with the Mexican government, I told myself this is what I want to be doing for the rest of my life. Like this is it. And so when I decided I wanted to pursue a master's and then a PhD, I was sure that I was going to be looking afterwards for a job that was related to that, and thankfully I found it later.
yeah.
Um,
So is that sort of the why you decided to go to grad school? Because I think you worked for a little bit right after your undergraduate work.
Yeah, I worked for 5 years, partly in consulting firms and freelancing a little bit, but uh, it was 3 years and a half, I think, or so in Mary Molina Center, and that's where I really had a great exposure to many projects that were developed in Mexico, and again this bridge between the academics and the research and the very science-based notions and how that could improve air quality and also legislation and policies at a national and at a local level. So yeah, that's when I was like, okay, yeah, this is exactly what I want to do. And that's where I met also my direct boss, Oscar Peralta. He was actually uh, a PhD, well, a professor in the UNAM, which is the Universidad Nacional Autónoma de Mexico, which is well, the National University of Mexico. And he was a professor in atmospheric science department. And the way he explained the things to me and the problematics that we were analyzing and the projects, and just trying from a physical perspective to understand what was going on in a chemical perspective, it was so cool to me that I was like, I said the same. I want to be like him, and I want to be able to explain other people in this detail, but also in such a layman's level, and just to because explaining something so simple is really hard, and you really have to know what you're talking about to be able to put it in very simple words. So I was definitely looking forward to be that type of person, like at the time my direct boss.
Yeah. No, that's really cool. And so you're in Mexico City and then you made your way to Colorado and like, all right, this is me. I've grown up in the United States, but I'm imagining, let's say I'm an extraterrestrial and I learn like 8 facts about the US. I don't think Colorado would have been one of those eight. It would have been like Texas and California and unfortunately right now Trump and some other things, right? So how did Colorado, like how did you find this degree program?
Yeah, so that's interesting. I think I've always been very ambitious, and when I decided I was gonna study or I wanted to study abroad, my first thought was like I want to study in the best place,
Yeah,
period. That's all. So I just have to figure out how can I do that. And there was at the time a national scholarship in the Mexican government where if you had the right credentials, let's say, and studies and whatnot, and you were accepted to the top universities in the field in the world. Like it didn't have to be in the US. It could have been elsewhere. Australia, I don't know, wherever I wanted. But as long as you were accepted, you had a really good chance to obtain the scholarship. And it really didn't matter the amount of money. Like I was very surprised. And so I did apply for 2 times. So that's another thing. People think that I it was just like a smooth road, but no, I actually first applied for another program in Denmark, and I even had to take like Danish because you're required to speak
yeah,
some Danish. So I had to take some Danish classes and do my whole package and preparing for that thing for applying. In the end, I didn't get that, but every try, it's a year lost. So
yeah.
right, so I had to wait 3 years in order to get to the place I wanted and to the program that I wanted. And so yeah, it was
Like,
great.
how did you, I don't know, hold on to hope or like what kind of made you just be like, yeah, it's fine. I'll try next year. Or was it really hard or how was that time for you?
Um, I don't know. I just if I want something, I'll just do it.
Yeah,
I'll
that's
just
fair.
I mean,
Go for it.
as long as I keep wanting it, right? Like as long as it keeps being something that I feel like this is this is the thing I want,
Hmm.
then it really doesn't matter how many times I failed. Like, well, okay, we'll try it one more time. We're
Yeah.
gonna do it differently this time. And yeah.
That's such a
That's
great
it.
attitude. Yeah. I think I fall a little bit more into the, well, it didn't work, so I guess I'll try something different. I'm more of like a move on to the next. So I love that persistence. Yeah. And for, probably many people listening don't know that CSU Atmospheric Sciences at the time we were there and probably still now is kind of like consistently ranked within the top one, two,
It's
three
the top
programs.
one.
Yeah, in
Yeah,
the United States, which I didn't know before when I applied. I was just like, I like Fort Collins. It seems cool. And then I got accepted. I'm like, awesome. And then I don't know. I just randomly looked it up like 2 months after I had already accepted. And I was like, wait, what? Okay, cool.
yeah. I was surprised actually because when I met my peers and that were entering with me in the master's degree, I was so surprised people didn't know, and I was like, "That's the whole reason I'm here. Like, it's the most important reason."
Yeah.
Like,
Well, it's because like CSU, like the program is just, it's so unassuming. Everyone is really smart and talented, but it doesn't have that kind of vibe of like, look at me, I'm amazing. They're just like, hey, we like to go outside. Most of us
totally.
drink beer, most of us do mountain things. That's just, how we are. Which
Yeah, but
was what
everyone was like, "Why did you select CSU?" And everyone's answer was all the time because of the mountains.
yeah.
I'm like,
Yeah, yeah.
"What are you
Yeah.
talking about?" I didn't like at the time. I didn't even know. I mean, it was so close to the Rockies.
Yeah.
So
No, I think that was me. I grew up next to the Rockies. I'm like, I want to stay next to the Rockies. So this one hits the That's really funny. When did you graduate? Can you remind me?
Um, well, officially December 2018.
Okay, I'm fast forwarding a little bit, but I'm doing that for a reason because I want to now rewind it. Which is so again, I'm an American. I'm born here. I have no issues being in this country as a citizen. You had to you were a student when the first Trump administration started, correct? And I
Yeah, it
know
was shocking.
yeah, I know that the current Trump administration is looks different than the first one, but still there are probably some overlap for international students. And I'm just wondering if you have, encouragement, advice for international students listening who are in the United States right now, or maybe want to come to the United States. I know I have a hard time looking at the news, right? And the news, it feels like it gets worse every day. And it doesn't, right? There's still so many good people out there. There's so many good things happening, but it's scary when you look at, what the media is focusing on.
I would say hold on right now. Maybe it's not the best advice, but um, from what I've heard from different professors and friends, student visas for internationals are actually um, canceled right now. They
Mm,
are not giving new visas. Um, they are not renovating new visas for students. So I mean, that's literally just closing the door the moment. Um, if you, if I were in that case when I was looking for a university, I would probably be like, okay, so what's the next one, right? Like, this is my top one. What's the top two? And then going down and then try to find um, one that is outside the US that is still really good because I mean it really doesn't matter even if it's like top 20 it's you're talking about the entire world.
yeah.
So I mean the 20th is still effing amazing. Like it's gonna be an amazing program. So I don't think people would have to feel um bad about probably not going to the US, a US university. I would say, in my opinion, the greatest value of going to a US university for a graduate program, especially if it's one of the top ones, right? It's because you are gonna have exposure to a huge suite of projects and the people that you're going to be working with are known globally.
Hmm.
Like every time I see it, I say, well, I work with Emily Fisher or um, Jeff Pierce. Like everyone is like, oh my gosh, like how? How did you do it? Like everyone is just so impressed. But that said, that is not the only place, right? Like I did my postdoc in France in the laboratory for environmental studies it's the Commission of Atomic Energy in France. And so it's the same thing, right? Like I did my postdoc with the people that are doing pretty much the top, well, not pretty much, the top research on methane, the ones that produce all these big papers with 4 pages of co-authors on methane, and they have the global budgets, and they have the if I say okay, I work with A, B, C, everyone is like, wow. So there are these type of groups not only in the US. So just try to find, I would say to these people who are looking and thinking about studying something on atmospheric science or another on another field, just try to find what you really like, and where are these groups? Who are these people that are making the most recent discoveries that are uh, I found like in Spain they are doing amazing research on satellite observations in the water, which it's a groundbreaking thing, right? Like, well, that was maybe like a couple of years ago. It was really groundbreaking, but it's not like they just leave it like that. They are building a group of research only looking at that, and they have connections with UNEP, um, and they have connections with a lot of international agencies. And so those kinds of exposures, you can have them in a lot of different places around the world, not only in the US.
Yeah, I think that's really good advice. And I don't have a crystal ball. Who knows what's going to happen? Hopefully, this is a temporary blip, and we start to understand and remember again the immense value of talent from everywhere in the United States. And also, maybe there's a future when, yeah, the thing that you're describing of, yeah, going to the US and you get to work with these big names, you get this exposure to this broad range of projects. I'm hoping that that starts to happen in other places, that other places step up even more because, you're describing this amazing research. And I'm like, yeah, I guess I kind of knew that thing about Spain a little bit, but not a lot, right? I think hopefully this makes science stronger everywhere else where, who knows what will happen to the United States. I thought it was really interesting what you said about the exposure to the big range of projects. So you did do your postdoc in France, and I think you were maybe also before that in Brazil for a short period of time because your husband is Brazilian. And again, like I've moved once in my life from Ogden, Utah to Fort Collins, Colorado. So this is astounding to me. You're so brave and just like willing to change your life and not be around family. Like not even close. Like France, I can't how long is it from France to Mexico? 12-hour flight? 6.
Yeah, kind of. Well, more than that, because you have to be jumping
Yeah.
to different. So
Um,
yeah, it's like 15, 16 hour thing
Yeah. So there
total.
wasn't actually a question there. I sort of got detracted off track, but really what I was going for was do you feel like in your postdoc in France and the work, if you did do any work in Brazil, I seem to remember maybe you weren't able to find a position. It was just too challenging down there. Did it feel more limited? Like people were kind of just very siloed into their thing. They weren't quite as, because I'm like my projects are all over the place and I love that.
No, I'm glad you asked that question, and I would say there are great projects around the world, like right now, and they have been ongoing, and the amount of stuff that is being produced with a low amount of money elsewhere, it's impressive. It's really, really impressive. the thing about the US is that you have the money and you have the people and you have these things. But when you go outside and you're not in a super developed country, then you get to see all these other projects that are going on in Chile, in Argentina, in Mexico, in Puerto Rico. Well, Puerto Rico is part of the US, but they have really cool stuff going on anyway. Um, and and so you start opening your eyes to this wide range of research and really, really cool research that is not necessarily um, linked to how can I say it, like to these big names that we normally talk. It's more grounded, it's more it's also very um I don't know how to say it, but like fulfilling. It's a very fulfilling work sometimes because you get to work with communities and you get to work with local governments and stuff. So it's just different, right? It's a different type of work. Um, One thing, and sorry to go back to your question in a sense, because many people fear that they don't speak the language.
Hmm.
And when I got to the US, I only spoke Spanish and English. I now speak four languages and probably five languages. And but the thing is, the other ones, I've just learned them on the way, you know, because I just had to, and it 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 isn't that hard.
Yeah.
It takes time. Yeah,
Yeah.
it is going to take time. It's going to be frustrating and whatnot. But I moved to France without speaking French, and here I am.
Yeah.
And I married my husband with like limited Portuguese, and now it's like my second language, right? So uh, it really it isn't that hard. It shouldn't be a barrier. And I feel like when you only speak one language, you think, oh my gosh, how am I going to be doing this? Blah, blah, blah. But you just do it.
Yeah. No, I think
Just-
that's a really good point. Like, I know, people love Duolingo. My mom's constantly doing Duolingo, and she definitely progresses with that. Um, but I think there's something to be said for just like you live there, so you just like it's like going to school or getting a new job that has completely new skills. Yeah, you don't know how to code Python until you have to code Python, and then you're gonna start picking it up over time. And maybe you're not perfect. I mean, yeah, I've thought about moving to Norway and I'm like, okay, great, a whole new language to mispronounce words in, but that's fine.
yeah, I think a lot of people are afraid of that. But now you shouldn't. You just go for it and
Yeah,
yeah,
you have
roll
to
with
put
the
up because you
punches.
have to. Yeah, I think
People are most of the times you get like a lot of people that are really nice and they just appreciate the fact that you're trying to learn their language. So yeah.
and then the people who aren't nice, I mean, that tells you something about their character anyway, so whatever.
Yeah, there
I'll
you go.
never be like I'm so amazed with all of the English as a second language students who come and have to write all of these academic papers. And I'm quite good at editing because my mother, instilled that into me. So I'll edit it, but I edit it with just a very, kind attitude of like, yeah, they don't quite understand how where you put the word the, which is such a small thing, but when you grow up with it, it's normal. And when you don't, it's where does the go? Is it the or not the? Like these things that we don't think about when the language is our own. So something else that I think is so cool about you is that you started off in this very science realm, right? You did your PhD, pure science, and now you have moved into this role at Clean Air Task Force. You're doing policy. How did that come about? Why did you start getting interested in that? I heard maybe hints from even back in undergrad when you heard the stories of like working with policymakers. Did you take like I'm kind of a person who's like, is there a class for this thing so I can, feel like I know what I'm doing? Did you take classes? Did you just dive in? Tell me about
Yes.
that.
Yes to all of it. So it just it started my desire of looking these type of opportunities and later a job, a career in this was more based on the experience that I had specifically at Mario Molina Center.
Mhm.
Just knowing that I could be that bridge and that I could help policymakers understand better the science behind um, and not only the science but the technical everything behind the technical aspects of a policy that I think it should be definitely addressed in a specific location. Um, I think that's what it really drove me into trying to find all the time this type of job. And you mentioned that briefly, but when I was in Brazil, aside from being in the middle of a pandemic, which was hard already, but it was I lost track of what I was going to say. What I was going to say. I was what was before? What did I say before that? I'm so sorry.
So you kind of cycle back to moving to Brazil um, during the pandemic through the what we're looking at kind of the broader policy, like how did you get into policy?
Ah, yes, sorry. I got it. So the reason why I didn't get a job was because I was very, very obstinate into getting what I wanted,
Yes,
right? Like
I
I
get
was like, I am not gonna compromise
it. Hmm.
into getting a job that I don't want. And I want what I want, period. I want a policy making job and or in the meantime, so what I was willing to settle on was a science postdoc, which I ended up having in France. But I actually applied for a couple of them in Brazil. But for reasons of funding, it never really happened. But I was very obstinate and I was like, no, I don't want to do this because people all the time were like, oh, but you're an environmental engineer, you can do this, you can do this, you can help me with that. I'm like, no, 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 because why? Did you don't know this? I'm like, of course I am. Can you do it? Of course I can, but I don't want to. I want to focus on finding the job that I want.
Yeah.
And I know sometimes you can't do that. Um, and it was definitely the reason why I had to take a postdoc in France, even though I was so happy living in Brazil, and I could have lived in Brazil forever
Mm.
because it's an amazing country, and I am totally biased because I love my in-laws. But but it was funny, like I was having what's the word when someone dies? I'm sorry, the
Right.
um yeah, grieving.
Grief.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
was grieving. uh, I was grieving the fact that I couldn't stay in Brazil. And
Yeah.
people will ask me like, "Where are you going?" I'm like, I'm going to Paris." I'm like,
You're the
and
fourth
people
quarter of
wouldn't
the
understand.
time.
And it's like,
Yeah,
what
no.
is the problem? You're going to go
No.
to Paris. And I'm like, yeah, but
There's
I'm
more
leaving
than
Rio
one
de
magical
Janeiro.
place to live in the world.
Yes, but I'm leaving Brazil. I'm leaving Rio de Janeiro, and I just love this place. So I really went through a period of like grieving, not grieving um, the fact that I had to leave Brazil. So I really wanted to stay there. Um, but the good thing is, I found my path, my own path in these because I told myself, well, you couldn't find the job that you wanted, but you're willing to compromise on something that still stimulates your brain and still is something that you like and that you feel that you can do very well. So I said, yes, I'm going to take this postdoc, but I'm definitely going to put myself out there trying to find the policy job that I want. So it was actually by a series of good decisions. One being that I learned well, that's one thing that I learned from the US and from my PhD advisor, whom I love, Emily Fisher. It's like applying to everything. Just apply to anything and everything on the radar that you can apply for. And so I was applying to these L'Oreal women's scholarship, and they weirdly asked me for uh, letter of reference, reference letter from a peer. And I was like, from a peer? Like, what is that? So I was like, well, okay, fine. So I thought, okay, I'm gonna ask Jacob Lindas, who was my friend and colleague in the Fishers group. And when we talk, like when I was trying to explain to him about the letter, I was like, yeah, but don't tell this to anyone, but I really don't want to be here. And he knows because he's also working as a congressional advisor, I think, or scientific advisor in the U.S. Congress. So he also does policy and this type of a bridge job. And so he's like, oh, okay. He just put it on the back of his mind, the fact that I was not entirely happy with with just it, or not happy, but like the fact that that I took the postdoc just as like meh. Some in the meantime, while I find something that I actually want and that I actually like. And so at some point he sent me a text and he's like, I think I found something that will be you will be great. You will be amazing. And it was through him that I knew um a project manager who was leading the search for this person in at CATF at Clean Air Task Force, and that's how I got here. But it was really funny because when I read the call and when I read the description, it literally just missed my name. Like it was like call for Zitely Tzompa, like we're waiting for you. Yeah, it was like everything I had done, everything I wanted to do, everything like it was just like perfect. And I was like shocked. I was like, yes, this is exactly what I want to be doing.
Be like, ah, coincidence or whatever. But like, there is something to be said for like when you make that decision, you draw that line in the sand, you say, this is the identity I want, this is the job I want. It's out there. You might not know it's out there. You might not recognize it's out there because you're not ready for it or whatever. But when you are ready for it and you're aligned, like, boom, like it happens. So, yeah, thank you for sharing that because I think that's how I felt. Like I'm still finding my way in my research, like my assistant professor position that I have started as of last year. It's not the 100% perfect job for me yet, and I'm working on making it or figuring out, what is, but it's the most 100% perfect job I've had ever. And the resume, or not the resume, the job listing was kind of like, oh yeah, like I did that. Oh look, they said atmospheric science, like in the thing, like it's talking to me.
Yeah, there are a couple of things that my dad said that it really resonated in me when I was kind of struggling on deciding, oh, if I want to say yes to any of the other jobs that I was uh, able to do and that people were offering me to, oh, you should try this, you should try that, or I can give you this and I can give you that. Um, he said to me, opportunities are all the time. It's
Mhm.
just your decision to grab it or leave it. And don't worry, if you leave it, there's gonna be another one. Is
Yeah.
it gonna be better? Who knows? Is it gonna be worse? Who knows? But the thing is, um, you have to be able to give the 100% of you to try to find something, but but knowing that you might not get it.
Yeah.
And if you don't get it, you don't get destroyed,
Yeah.
right? It just happened. It was someone else was a better fit, period. So you just have to keep going and try it one more time.
Yeah.
If I didn't have get this position, I would just have tried 100 more times until I get something similar, um, or something different. Or I would stay as a postdoc for sure and just like being waiting until I get another chance and I get another opportunity
Yeah.
because I knew that I would never forget that this is what I want. I was just um, trying to win time, like I was just trying to make time.
Yeah.
I'm just here. I need to feed my, we need, my husband and I need to feed my daughter. We need to provide for her. So there are some economical situations that we have to cover. So yes, there's a need for money. Fine, I'll do this. I still like it ish. So I'll do it, but I will always be looking for these opportunities to find actually what I want. So the type of thing that I want.
Yeah, it's that, yes, realistically, most of us need to make money and need to have a job. And yes, most of us are going to have a job that we don't love at some point in our life, or maybe a period in our job that we don't love. But as long as like, we're still focused on, hey, this is really over here, more what I want to do. As soon as the opportunity comes up, doesn't matter. Like, I wasn't thinking about becoming a professor at all when the opportunity came up, and I was like, honestly, it sounds a little bit more aligned with what I want. So let's just try. And it happened. So yeah, I think that's fantastic. Maybe a couple specific questions around, working in policy. So when I've done a tiny amount of work in this space, and really like what my research group does right now is they work with Clean Air Task Force, right? Like I work with some people in your group. I'm going to give a talk in a couple of weeks. I'm excited, or next week. Oh my gosh, I'll get it ready. It'll be ready, I promise. Um, so we either work with people who are a little bit more directly working with policy, or maybe we work with, say, like government program managers, but we're not doing policy per se. So I have kind of like a very limited view of what that actually looks like. I imagine there's some aspect of having to take really complex sciencey and engineering topics and distilling it into a short and digestible manner such that someone who's in a rush and is not an expert can, look at and say, I understand the key points, but can you kind of describe that a little bit more? Maybe how you're interfacing? I know you work with the EU a lot.
Yeah. So so the good thing is we never work from scratch,
Mm,
right? Neither in science nor in policy. And the good thing about what we do is for pretty much everything, um, there is precedent
mm,
elsewhere. And so the work that I did in the EU was to follow the development of the EU methane regulation, um, almost from the start until it was approved, and now in its implementation, and providing these technical experience that I have and technical background so that we can adapt. So the thing is, more than create something new, I would say, it's adapt. Adapt to the laws there, well, the way of making laws, the way of passing laws, the way of developing the laws, even the way of writing the law. It's so different the way Colorado writes and the way Canada does and the way the EU does is like so different. And and you have to adapt like every time. So we are as Clean Air Task Force, we are asked to revise different proposals and give our kind of honest broker-ish opinion from a technical perspective and from a political perspective as well, but more on a technical perspective. And so for some, that's kind of what the work that we did in the EU for this methane regulation. And right now, what we're doing is to try to support um, the EU in different, well, try to elaborate studies that will help policymakers understand better some technical things. For example, right now we are about to publish, and I'm leading one of the projects that we have in collaboration with Carbon Limits on how to um, what are the different methodologies to estimate methane emissions from methane intensity from the oil and gas industry. And so, because there are many ways, we're not trying to be like prescriptive and say like, hey, I think you should be doing this, because our goal is to inform policymakers. We're trying to be more like, hey, this is what you should be considering if you choose A, or if you choose B, or if you choose C. And these are the pros and these are the cons. And so we kind of do that process every time we reach with different stakeholders, uh, either it be at local or national levels in different countries. And for example, right now we're also, and every country is different. The work within every country is different. So for example, right now we're also supporting the the government of Kazakhstan on trying to develop also a methane regulation um, for them. So again, it's more like an adapting situation, because we need to be mindful of what are the processes, the internal processes there, and also like how can this new part of legislation can be added into the already ecosystem of regulations that are in a specific country. And we serve also as advisors kind of thing for the government ministries, because of our technical background. Then it's easier for them to come and be very honest and be like, hey, can you explain me how a pneumatic controller works? I need to understand, because we are writing these regulation or these emission control, and I have no idea how it works. So we go and then we explain how they work, how the emissions happen, and all that. And so that's the type of um, one-on-one conversations that we have normally with governments, and the way we go on supporting them on passing regulations towards reductions of methane emissions in different sectors, not only the oil and gas, but also waste, ag, and coal.
Yeah, that's a really helpful description. Maybe one last quick question, because I know we're getting towards the end. But what are the sort of the time scales where like do you actually, you've been with Clean Air Task Force for a few years now. Do you actually turn on the news and you see something and you say, my team or I wrote the thing that like is leading to the thing that's on TV? Do you get to have those occasional, yes, I did it kind of moments where it's actually showing up in real policy?
Yes. It's also nice when you see that all your efforts on trying to push a specific part of the legislation actually go. Um, and the same happens when it's the other way around, right? Like when you're pushing and pushing and pushing, and then at the end it's just like, no, it's not. It was not approved. And you're
Yeah.
like, oh,
Yeah. It's
like
kind of like
how come they didn't
the
see
failed
this?
experiment in science, right? Sometimes it doesn't work, sometimes it does. That's super cool. I have two kind of like ender questions for all of my interviews, and I know we're almost at time, and I do want to be respectful of your Friday evening with your family. But just maybe very briefly, if you have the moment, which is the first one, the first question is what's sort of one of your favorite shifts or updates in your identity over time, if you think back kind of when you started in science and here you are living in France, working for Clean Air Task Force.
Wow. Oh, it's such a great question. I think just seeing how I've evolved in a personal way. I think in obviously in the core, I'm the same person that I was when I left Mexico, like I don't know, when was that? Like 15 years ago or so. Um, but I was definitely I've grown so much, and I think it just it and I've changed my thoughts have changed a lot. The way I see the world, the way I see people, different cultures, different languages, different ways of seeing life. I think that that's one of the things. And then I mean, there's when you have a kid that also just kind of changes all your perspective, and you start loving your parents even more than you already love them. And you're like, oh my gosh, they did this and they did that. So, I mean, there are parts that are more like natural, like natural talking about like the process of having kids. Then you kind of realize, oh my gosh, I was such an asshole, and they just took care of me regardless of how much pain I was causing them. But no, no, no. But yeah, it's just been very, very rewarding just to see the evolution. I would see the personal evolution. Um, but yeah, there's a lot of um things that I've lost from a personal way, and just grieving those losses. It's also a hard thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, sometimes we lose parts of us that we were like, well, it's probably for the best, but I miss that part. I miss the part that does, live music on the weekends, although I hate staying up past 9 p.m. So I look back and I'm like, I stayed up and played a show at midnight? What?
Exactly.
Incredible. Okay, and then the other question is sort of the other side of the coin, which is what's a core piece of your identity that you're really proud that you still have over all of these years and twists and turns?
I think just the relentless um positive way of looking at my own life, and at other people as well. I would never come in um knowing if I am about to know someone, I would always think the best of that person, unless that person demonstrates to me that it's a bad person or something. But I think I have kept that, and I think I have a sense of things are always gonna be good.
Hmm.
Uh, and I have that thing in my head is like, no matter where I am or what am I doing or what even happens to me or my family, I know I'm gonna be fine.
Yeah. And I mean, I see that in you because I remember in grad school, right? Like just walking into the Fisher office, like you guys had this weird, large, semi-office thing that about three, four, or five of you were in at any given time. And you were always just kind and patient and, happy to talk. And like, I was a little moody during grad school. I'll be the first to admit that. And sometimes people would come in and I'd be like, my brain is thinking, how dare you interrupt me? Like I wouldn't say that, but that would probably be what I'd kind of project. And you were always just like, hey, so I think you are one of the kindest, warmest people I know, and I love that about you. I know I've gone over. You've been so generous with your time tonight, and I'm really excited for people to hear this, especially people who are international students or even US students who are thinking, hey, you know what? I want to go study somewhere else, like that kind of inspiration. People who are interested in policy, I think there's so many good things in here. So thank you, Zitely. I'm not going to try to say your last name because I slaughtered it once, and you know what? That was enough.
Thank you, Anna.
But
Thanks so much for the opportunity. It has been a pleasure, and I've had a lot of fun.
so I promised I'd circle back to the Ravi thing. So Ravi, I had to look it up. His name is A.R. Ravi Shankara, and that's how he goes by, but he goes by Ravi really. And Ravi is one of those just giants in science and engineering and atmospheric chemistry specifically. So he was at NOAA, I couldn't quite remember. So that's the National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration. He was there for almost 30 years, led as director of the Chemical Science Division from 2006 to 2014. He just did amazing things, and as I mentioned, was part of the team that figured out why the hole in the ozone was happening and how to fix it, which was, essentially removing these CFCs, these chlorofluorocarbons from the atmosphere. And I would say that, the ozone hole success story is one of the most impressive just international cooperation stories, and does give me hope that yes, of course, there's a lot around climate change right now that feels quite bad, and quite polarizing, and the United States is continually pulling in, pulling out. But I think there's models out there for success that we can look to, and I just want to briefly reflect upon, my interactions with Ravi. So Ravi, I mean, who knows how many people he's met over the years? Thousands, I'm sure. And he's an incredibly impressive scientist, very smart, very thoughtful. And he ended his career in our department at atmospheric science at Colorado State University. And he taught one class that I took, which was basically ethics and science. And it was so great to take it from him because he's seen it all, right? And he's very funny. And it was a delightful class, very generous of his time. And he sat on a few PhD committees, including someone in my group, not my own committee, but someone in my group. And he asked just really interesting big picture questions that made me feel better about who I am as a person, because I don't necessarily think so much in the fine detail. I think in that bigger picture. So to hear this, giant of a scientist ask these big picture questions made me think, oh, okay, my thought patterns have validity. Now, that being said, Ravi could absolutely dive into the details. Phenomenal science all around. And then the last memory I want to share real fast is that, so he retired just a couple years back from Colorado State University. And I went to his retirement party at CSU. I'm sure he also had retirement parties elsewhere since he's done so many things. But I went to his retirement party at CSU. And again, like, I'd taken one class. He barely overlapped with me. I wasn't necessarily expecting him to remember me. I just wanted to go, send my best wishes, say hello to the other people that were there at the retirement party. And he remembered me. He remembered me so well. He said that he was touched that I came. I felt so seen by Ravi, and it made me, this is who scientists and engineers who are amazing are, right? They remember you. They might not remember your name, but they remember meeting you. They remember a little bit about you. They want you to feel seen and heard because you matter, and they matter. And we all matter. So Ravi is an incredible person. Zitely is an incredible person. I had so much fun with this interview. To make the learn and move your feet, I would say what really struck me, amongst other things in this conversation, was Zitely's just really excellent advice around language, right? She said, language, we see it as a barrier. I certainly see it as a barrier. I tell myself, and this is a story I tell myself, that if I truly want to change, I need to stop telling me this story. But the story I tell myself is I'm not good at languages. I'm not good at words, right? We started the interview with me stumbling over words, stumbling over pronunciation. It is a barrier of mine. It doesn't necessarily impact my day-to-day life enough that it's a, top of the pile thing to work on, but I know this about myself. So I loved her advice of like, hey, language is not a barrier. So let's extend this, broaden this to the learn and move your feet of this week, which is what might be a barrier to what you would like to do. right? It could be language if you would really, really like to move to a different country, at least for a little while to work in a different country. It could be coding, right? Maybe you're more of a qualitative scientist and you'd like to get into more of a quantitative world, but coding feels like a barrier. Or maybe it's the type of coding, right? I mean, this might sound very arcane and niche, but really, the translation between Python and R can sometimes be a barrier, right? Some fields really like Python and some fields really like R. These are coding languages. Right? What is that barrier to what you love? And is there a way that you can immerse yourself just a little bit? Yeah, it's hard to immerse yourself. And let's say that you wanted to move to Norway and learn Norwegian, but you can't do that right now. Okay, how are you going to immerse yourself in Norwegian? Well, maybe you find audiobooks that are recorded in Norwegian or YouTube videos or whatever, and you just start listening to them once a week or every day for a few minutes, right? Just like, what is that immersion for yourself for the coding? Maybe you tell yourself, okay, I have to do this project and I'm going to learn a new language. I just have to, right? Like once you kind of make that switch of like, this is just how it is, then you start to take on that identity of like, oh, I am a person who is learning Norwegian. I am a person who is learning and becoming proficient in Python or R, right? These are all things that we can do. Okay, for the song of the week, because you've made it to the end of the episode, culture is obviously really important to Zitely. Culture is somewhat important to me as well. My culture, like I don't know a ton about it, to be honest, right? My people have been in America for a very long time, but as I've mentioned in other episodes, I'm a bit of a UK mutt, and I really identify with Celtic music. There's something that happens in my brain as soon as it starts to get cold and dark out. I just want to listen to a lot of Celtic music. I'm sure it drives everyone around me crazy, but that's their problem. And I think the band Landcome is excellent, and they have a song, The Wild Rover. It's slow, it's slightly depressing. It's awesome. Absolutely love it. So Wild Rover by Landcome, song of the week. As a reminder, this podcast is not affiliated with my research and teaching roles at Colorado State University, but it is a big part of my belief that we can all have jobs that we love. And as a part of that, I do offer one-on-one coaching for helping you find and break through what are those barriers, right? What is that barrier to what you love, and how could you immerse yourself in it? What is that thing that's keeping you from taking the next step or leaving the job you have right now, or finding the job that you love, or moving past the imposter syndrome, or whatever it is you might have that you're just stuck on, right? We all get stuck on stuff, and it's often really, really hard to get unstuck without the help of others. So if you feel like I might be a good fit, let's schedule a free intro work audit call. The link is in the show notes, or you can just reach out to me, DM me on Instagram, STEMdenity, LinkedIn, Anna Hodshire, all the places. Music by XSS. I really appreciate your time. I really appreciate you listening to these interviews. I hope that you see parts of yourselves in the people I talk to and myself, right? So that we can start to really identify like, yes, this is something I'm maybe stuck on. And I didn't even realize I was stuck on it. Or, hey, this is something I do really well and I didn't even realize I do it really well, right? These are all really cool things to figure out about ourselves as we move through our different identities. So have a wonderful week, and I can't wait to talk to you next week. Have a good one.